I don't want to die. Keep me alive.
But we see this every day, and every time we get a consultation, women are saying to us, like, please make sure I come home with my baby.
I don't want to die. Keep me alive. That's what people say on the first
I believe
call.
that. I believe it.
Please make sure that I stay alive. Like, keep me alive. And that's hard. It's hard for many reasons.
So we probably don't have enough doulas.
We need some more.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because we're about to jump over the midwifery fence, so y'all better.
Welcome. This one is extremely exciting. We have Shira and JeTaime, your neighborhood friendly patient advocate, doulas of the century. Welcome.
You're so kind.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. We're super excited to be here with you.
Now, I'm actually more excited than you are. Like, way more excited than you are. It's one of those things, like, I woke up one morning and my phone is buzzing. And normally, my phone is buzzing because someone sees a story where they feel like a patient was taken advantage of. That is literally everything that I get, right?
Yeah.
You all's story came through my phone, I think at least 100 times.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't mean, when I say 100, I don't mean through social media. I like someone personally send it to me.
Oh, wow.
Social media is thousands, just thousands of times.
Yeah.
But personally, someone sent it to me over 100 times.
Yeah.
Wow.
I was like, I got to meet him.
Yeah. It's
I got to meet
crazy
him.
what's happened in the last 2 weeks here.
For you all, how's your life changed?
You know, life is still a lot. In other parts of life is still a lot of the same.
Yeah.
But has it been 2 weeks? Yeah, 2 weeks have been. There's been lots of what do we call it?
Turbulence.
You know, there was a lot of positive rally of support in the beginning, I think, and then the court of public opinion is always going to say what they have to say, and so then it, was there were lots of things, but I mean things have shifted in, I guess are not even necessarily influence, but people knowing, about us and our story. We are integral. I love the fact that in the birth worker community here in Atlanta, the great thing is that people have been rallying around us and standing with us in solidarity because they know our character and they understand the integrity that we do in this work, that we have in this work. And so we're really appreciative for the people who have stood behind us, despite the naysayers and what people have to say. So carrying it has been heavy. Having to rehash things out has been heavy because this was traumatic for this family, but also for us. But we are believers. And so, we've been standing on the scripture and the word and each other. Thank God it was two of us and we have each other to kind of lock arms in this with. So there's been ups and downs and hard days and easier days, and we're still supporting families. I just left a postpartum visit before I got here.
Oh, wow.
So we're still having to show up and pour as well. It's been different, but okay.
Shira?
Yeah. It feels like maybe this is what our ancestors experienced, the change agents that came about like in the 60s and all.
Explain that.
Sometimes I feel like, I wonder what Rosa thought after she sat on the bus. Like, I'm sure she was like, all I did was sit down. Like, my feet were hurting, and then everybody was making a big hoopla. So all we're thinking is, this is how we always show up for people. And it's making a lot of noise. So our hope is that, okay, behind all this talk is some actual change, because that's what we're really here for.
Okay.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I am, in my opinion anyway, right? Patient advocate first. I am one of those people where I believe that we have this weird thing where religion and science and kind of people try to use religion to justify science. And I'm a religious person, but I don't do that, right? That's some of the problems we have in America, in my opinion, are because we have single issue voters, right? People who say, I don't believe in abortion, so I'm going to vote this way. Like, that's literally how they vote, right?
Yeah.
So we got a whole bunch of crap like that, right?
Yes.
And I look at you all as like Superwoman 1 and Superwoman 2 in no specific order. In no specific order. Because it takes a lot to go into a hospital and tell them, no, this is what my family wants. This is what my patient wants. And it doesn't matter what you say. This is what we're going to do.
Yeah.
What was that day like for you all?
I think it started off as
A normal day in the
a
neighborhood.
typical day of how we support our families.
I love how they talk.
Yeah. So,
You can start.
yeah, it started off just laboring with the family. I will say, I know we try to separate the two, but it was a heavy prayer day. Like we felt that we needed to armor ourselves a little differently.
Mhm.
And so we had the music on, like we kept the lights low, and we just kept going back into prayer. Like, I don't know what's going on, but we feel something. And so we did that, and we continued to support a mom. It started off a little rocky. You know, we had to relocate. So just to give some context,
Sure.
I support rural area families. So I'm middle Georgia, and all of those little pockets surrounding it of families that have either no direct access to hospitals and OB care, or either they have to just one provider locally. So there's not a lot of choice, right?
What part of town are you in?
I'm in Macon, but I service all the tiny little cities around it.
I went to and I'm gonna let you, not to cut you off, but I went and talked to, and Senator Ossoff was talking about St. Mary's Hospital, which had closed down their OBGYN thing, and they were saying now patients are literally having to drive over an hour and a half to go deliver their babies. Is that what you all are experiencing?
That's exactly what we're experiencing. This family traveled over 2 hours to get to a hospital that they believed would be a better choice for their baby. And so that's one of the direct issues that my family's face that I'm trying to rectify.
Yeah.
So that was strike one. You know, we had to travel, and but we just kept recalibrating and strategizing, and we got all the pieces in place. We made it to Stockbridge, Georgia, and got checked in and got started with laboring, and
not checked in to the hospital, just to be clear.
Oh yes, we checked into a hotel.
Yes. So remember, typically as a birth doula, like as soon as labor starts, we don't like go straight to the hospital, right? We labor at home until there is active labor presenting itself.
Which is like 6 centimeters. That's active labor. So there's a lot that happens.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're laboring at home with this, or at this Airbnb with this mom. And, you know, things are pretty typical. Like it's normal patterns of labor. We are used to seeing normal patterns of labor. It's the two of us. And, you know, going back and forth, providing her comfort measures. And it's just regular labor. At a certain point of labor, mom decides that she's ready for some pain management. And that's fine. Like, let's go to the hospital if you're ready for pain management. I think from the moment she requested to the moment we got to the hospital, because we were about 12 minutes from the hospital, we left the house within 20 minutes. It was typical things going on. And we presented to the hospital because this was not her specific assigned hospital. And it was after hours. There's no like women's center you can walk into, right? So we had to go through the emergency department. I went upstairs to triage with her. We kind of like checked in, got upstairs to triage. What is typical when you present as an active laboring patient in triage is that the nurse will do a cervical check just to see how far along you are in labor. The nurse does a cervical check, and I have been to 300 plus births. So I kind of already had an idea after she did this cervical check that something was off. She did not speak in that moment, you know, what her findings were from that cervical check. She just stated she wanted to get the doctor and have the doctor come in and do an ultrasound. Ultimately, the doctor comes in to do an ultrasound and recognizes that the baby is breech.
Okay.
Breech means that the baby, rather than being head down, the baby's head up.
But is presenting as the first thing that will potentially exit the body. So this one was a butt first baby.
Okay.
Yeah. Immediately after the doctor recognizes that this is the case, he says the only option that you have here at this hospital is for a C-section. Mom then states, I'm here for pain management. At this point, we are in very active labor. Every 3 to 4 minutes, she's having some strong contractions. And she says, I really, really want pain management. And the doctor says, the only pain management that you will get is a spinal in the OR. And of course, it's like, you can't lawfully say that you're not going to provide a treatment to this laboring patient because she doesn't agree with, or because she does not consent with the method of delivery that you are recommending. Because at the end of the day, it's a recommendation, right? And so he continues to tell her that, you know, she cannot receive pain management essentially unless she agrees to this cesarean, because that is the method of delivery that he is willing to do. And so it becomes this back and forth. I'm not for sure certain if he thought she was asking for different pain management than an epidural. So there is a moment where I speak up and say like, hey, even if this does turn into a C-section, an epidural is still sufficient for a cesarean. And then he continues to speak about how that's not his preferred method. All of these things that are kind of essentially just stalling the process. Hey, she's presenting asking for pain management. Why can't we get it?
And that's the only reason you're there at that point.
At that point, we're there for pain management. And ultimately, she plans to deliver the baby here. But we presented, let's get pain management, and then we'll figure the rest of the things out, right? Go ahead.
Because when he said that he would not administer epidural or any other pain medicine, ideally, a mom that's been laboring for quite some time, she's tired, she's burnt out, and all she's saying is, I just need a moment to catch my breath and not be in complete discomfort, and then we can talk about next steps. That's a reasonable request. All of the tests were performed to confirm that both she and baby were safe and there was no medical emergency. At one point, the anesthesiologist comes in and he is checking the placement of the placenta. That could become an issue in birth if the placenta is in position to come out before the baby. But nothing, her blood work, none of the things showed any reason to move with urgency towards surgery. And what we noticed is the providers, he was like desperately reaching for something to corroborate his recommendation, right? So I think he was thinking, anesthesiologist came in, he was hoping that he would agree with him and say, no, we need to take her to surgery.
I have a question though.
Yeah.
You said this was late at night. You also said that she had to call the doctor.
No, she didn't have to call the doctor.
The doctor was already there?
Yeah, we always have on staff.
On-call doctor.
But the doctor wasn't there.
Yeah, there's always an on-call doctor.
Sure.
That's in labor and delivery.
So I'm just curious, right?
Yeah.
Him coming, trying to get this C-section, had he done that, he would have been able to go home.
Right.
I'm just asking. I'm not, that's, okay, go ahead.
Well, typically doctors have a 24-hour shift, so he could go back to rest. It wouldn't be a thing where he would be woken up throughout the night randomly like, oh, we think she's time. It's time for her to push. He would perform the surgery and retreat back to resting.
Okay.
So that can be a factor that influences his decision as to moving it forward.
I think that he was in a very big rush because by the time they did check her cervix, she was in strong active labor. If you don't know, it takes about 10 centimeters. Like you fully dilated 10 centimeters. She was about 2/3. She was more than halfway there.
Yeah.
And typically once you are in active labor, heading towards that 10 centimeters, things can pick up, like they don't slow down.
Right.
Okay.
And I think that he was very much like, this is happening fast. She might have this vaginal birth. I need to hurry up and get this C-section, because there were multiple times he would leave the room and then he'd come back because you could hear her progressing. There's a sound that a woman has as she continues to progress through labor. And he kept coming back in such a panic and a frenzy, like, come on, continuing to bring a clipboard, trying to get her to consent. And she did not want to consent. The thing was that we were continually requesting pain management and epidural. And there was no, like she said, the anesthesiologist came in and was like, her numbers are fine. The ultrasound is great. Everything is fine. Give her an epidural. Now, this is about 3 hours later, by the way.
So there's no pain meds this whole 3 hours?
This whole 3 hours, nothing. No pain meds.
He's just in a tiny little space, working through the contractions, and he's refusing.
Is she black?
Of course. And is he an old white man? Absolutely.
I wasn't going to ask that.
I answered for you.
Okay, got you. Shira to the rescue.
Basically, yeah.
This thing about women, I'm going to say women first, right? And people not believing that they feel a certain level of pain.
Right.
Do you experience that?
Absolutely. We the notations that the physicians make towards the mom, someone brought up a great point the other day. It seems as though he listed her as a pain-seeking patient. Like, I'm here for pain medicine.
It's so crazy because when I say this shit, people are like, "Oh my God, you're reaching."
Yeah, no.
But I'm like, no, I'm telling you, this is how it works. And I'm a back end business person when it comes to healthcare. Like, I look at the backside of this, right?
Right.
And I look at, why would someone want to push a C-section or someone doesn't want one if their life isn't in danger?
Exactly.
And you all are saying, for sure, from your experience,
Right.
her life nor the baby's life is in any danger.
If at any moment it shifted and then baby was showing signs of distress or mom was showing signs of distress, absolutely, that's a reason. Hey, let's go. We got to go to the OR. This may not be what she wanted. Right. But here is our recommendation that is now agreeing with this provider's recommendation. And ultimately, she still has the choice. But we would absolutely have told her like, hey, that's best for you or baby. And she was very much considering all of the things and saying, I will agree. If it's a medical emergency, absolutely. But everything was showing that there was no emergency at hand.
I'm getting frustrated. Like I said before, right? I think I don't know much about what a doula is. Now, I can tell you that I'm going to need some education on that.
Yeah.
The details of it.
Sure.
Even though I did have one, not me personally. When my son was born, there was a doula there.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to me because I felt like the doula was a patient advocate.
Absolutely.
Absolutely.
That's literally how I felt.
Yeah.
Like this is someone that's here to be a part of this process, to help walk us through it in this time. Because you're kind of in there, you're not in there. Both of you have kids, so you know what that's like. Of course, I have that 1 4-year-old, he's 3. And it's like, I just remember the doula kind of making life easier. From day one, making life easier. Would you all consider yourselves patient advocates?
100%.
Absolutely. That's certainly a part of our role as a doula. I feel like there are different roles that we have.
Sure.
I always say, I feel like before we get to the hospital or the birthing location, like I can really be what what people would like to consider the emotional support and the physical support. You know, they like to put flowers on it, like stay in scope, right? I feel like before we get to the hospital, I can stay in scope. Well, that's a whole medical term, but you don't want to call us medical professionals, but that's another story for another day. But yeah, I can do all the hip squeezes and I can, provide all that support. But once I show up to the hospital, I'm that pleasant an advocate and a fierce one at that.
A bodyguard.
Essentially, absolutely. I have seen providers not ask for consent and try to put their hands in a woman's vagina. And I have had to say, hey, please, she did not consent to that, right? Yeah. So I hate to say the word bodyguard, but absolutely.
Sounds like a bodyguard to me.
We are there to protect them and their rights, and that's absolutely a part of our role as a doula, one that we take very seriously.
This is why we consider ourselves a part of the care team, because physicians bring their wealth of knowledge pertaining to medicine, and we can talk all day. We'll tell you birth is not a medical happening. It doesn't even fit the model for the hospital, right?
Explain that.
So when you go to a hospital, you're presenting there because there's something wrong.
Sure.
You go there to diagnose and treat what's going on in your body, and there is a business side of that, in that you can't hold the room for too long. And so there's a process of moving patients along at an adequate rate, right? So here we are presenting with a laboring mom, and we're saying, hey, her body's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. Don't bother us. Nurses are simply trained to look at the blood work, look at the labs, look at the urine, and find something wrong so that they can treat you. You don't go to the hospital because nothing's wrong. You don't say, hey, I'm just here today because I wanted to see y'all. Check my blood. Right. So when we come in with a laboring mom and we're asking for space and time for her to do what her body needs to do, it contradicts the model and it interferes with the system of the hospital. And so we don't fault providers and nurses. It's their training has told them, look at the stuff over and over and over. Keep checking her blood pressure every 4 hours. Keep checking. And they're looking for something to treat.
When ultimately birth is a physiological process, it is a natural function of a woman's body. If we go back a couple of generations, everybody had their baby at the house. You know why? Because it's a natural function of a woman's body. You had trained midwives. First of all, it wasn't a degree, because if we want to go back into the history of Black midwifery and granny midwives, right? It was not a degree, and they licensed it, and it was a whole racial campaign to smear the name of granny midwives. But that's another conversation for another day too.
I'm familiar with that,
right? But at the end of the day, it is not a medical thing. Now, are there high-risk situations that could occur?
Sure.
Absolutely. But that goes back to Shira's point that when something is wrong, that is why we show up to a hospital. Right. And sometimes a hospital is the safest place to have a baby. Correct. But the statistics today, when we look at out-of-hospital birth and we look at hospital birth, we see that we are the most developed nation in the world, yet we have the worst maternal mortality rates ever, right? Especially for Black women, who are dying 3 to 4 times more likely to die than our counterparts, right? Yes. So you can't tell me that it's safer for me to have this natural, normal function of my body happen in a space that at the end of the day was really created for coins, like
Money.
for profit.
Money.
There are so many things that evidence proves is better for a laboring mother that is not the intervention that they put at the hospital.
Yeah.
But again, we don't fault doctors and providers and nurses.
Yeah.
They are trained to
The
intervene, but the system and the interventions are truly what's causing,
The poor
the poor outcomes. The cesarean rate in our country is 33%. You can't tell me that 1/3 of birthing women have to have a surgery to have a baby.
Yeah.
We've
And Georgia's is
populated-
even higher than the 33. Let's just say
We've populated the earth for generations.
And now all of
And-
a sudden we got to cut all these babies out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100 years ago, that wasn't the norm,
Yeah.
right? And so now 1/3 of birthing women have to have a C-section. The World Health Organization actually says that it should look more like between 10 and 12%.
Yeah.
Yet we're like triple that.
It's wild.
That's interesting because I look at, for whatever reason, we've kind of done away with who, right? It's all
Right.
Yeah.
That might be the one, but I feel like we should like re-engage that. But I look at who we have in office
Mm-hmm.
and how are they helping or influencing this rush. A lot of people out of doctors' offices and hospitals are getting their claims denied.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one of those times and I've said this multiple times, so it's not a secret. I am one of those people where I say, sometimes insurance is right. Sometimes we might be doing too much.
Absolutely.
Adding verticals, adding diagnosis codes that we don't need. And so what you guys are essentially saying is, again, insurance companies are also right.
I remember telling what the one provider in the rural county
Oh,
said.
yeah. I'll get there. But let me say this first. That's another thing. Insurance companies will readily approve a cesarean that a mom's scheduling for no medical reason.
Mm.
And we're like, help us here. Moms can just decide, I would prefer to do it this way. And so I'm going to go in. And that we believe that there needs to be some changes there. Of course, you have the right to choose how your baby is born, but this is a major surgery.
Yeah.
And the way that insurances decline all the things that people sometimes need, you let people have a major abdominal surgery. I would love to know the why behind that.
Yeah.
What is happening here. One of the providers, remember, I service rural counties. So I'm working with maternal deserts, places where families have to travel at least 30 minutes to the nearest hospital or to have choice of provider. And one of the providers said to a mom who was requesting a VBAC, a vaginal birth after a cesarean, he said to her, honey, what insurance do you have? And she said, oh, well, I have state health insurance. And he said, you're not paying for this surgery. My tax dollars are. So what is the problem? That is the mindset. That is the normal jargon used to communicate with women that look like us in these rural areas. There's no respect. They see the numbers behind it. And he asked her outright, are you paying for it? No, I am. So why do you care if I'm putting you on the books for surgery? Go away. That's normal. He didn't feel a single thing. That's how he communicates with clients regularly. And language is so important. We hear all the time, you're going to get a dead baby if you don't do it my way.
Yeah.
No.
They told her that multiple times. This mom
Yeah.
at Piedmont Henry.
Gonna get a dead
Baby's
baby.
gonna die. The baby. And when I requested, like, hey, can we please not use that kind of language? Well, I'm just telling her the truth. And she wants to do it this way. Her baby's going to end up dead.
Yeah, we hear that all the time. Or if a mother is overweight, they might say, well, what did you think was going to happen if you haven't taken care of your body? What did you think would be different in this situation? And it is hard to hear that and not flip tables. And we haven't flipped any tables yet. We keep it very classy.
We've been doing this work for 5 years.
We haven't flipped any tables.
300 plus births. And we have never been kicked out of a hospital, by the way. While everybody thinks we're belligerent, belligerent crazy doulas.
No.
We're not.
I look at this as, and like I said to you a little bit before, so when I got it, I'm a comment reader. I take time. I think some of it is funny. I think some of it is offensive. But when I saw people combating you all stories, they were all men.
Yeah.
That hurt me a little bit. It's getting to the point now where I feel like men hate women.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know where this comes from. Well, I have my hypothesis on it, but I'm not going to get into that.
Okay.
But it generally feels like men hate women. Do you have better success from women who are doctors than men?
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would say yes. I've only had a few OBs that were, I only had a few male OBs that look like me.
Got you. Oh, yeah.
And even then, there was a disconnect between the mother's feelings and the mother's desires and him saying, hey, let's move this along. Very checklistish. If 1, 2, 3, boom. Whereas mom is saying, I'd like to do X, Y, Z. Like, hey, let's just move this along. And so The other,
Go ahead.
no, you go ahead.
I was going to say, I think that, yeah, I can say that there, and then it's just the ratio too. You just have more female doctors than male doctors. But at the end of the day, and I know this is going to cause some issues probably when I say this too. So many people are also like, oh, Black doctor me, please. And I love my Black doctors because, hey, it's in the air for real.
Okay.
That's me. All right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, every day of the year. Thank God. Shout out to God. You know, make me Black. But also, indoctrination is a thing. And as unfortunate as it is, it ultimately, I have found, at least in the realm of space that we support, Metro Atlanta and Middle Georgia, that sometimes that doesn't even matter because of the system and being indoctrinated into the system, right? Now, there are some incredible Black providers, and shout out to them too here in Metro Atlanta, right? And I love them. And what I have loved to see is the support that we have gotten has been from Black providers who are influencers on social media. And I love that. So thank you to every Black provider that has really seen beyond their system lens and seeing the systemic issue in maternal care and really amplified that message. But I also believe that there is just a systemic issue, you know, whether it be gender, race, whatever.
So much so that we get inboxes all the time from OBs, people
Yeah.
who work at the hospital, former labor and delivery, people who have left because they witnessed firsthand the disparity, the large gap, marginal gap between how moms that look like us, Black and brown moms, are treated. And they just couldn't take it anymore.
Yeah.
In fact, there's one that actually she was the lawyer for the hospital. And now she has turned patient advocate, supporter of the families that have malpractice lawsuits.
That's a whole nother story.
Yeah.
Because, and I don't mind saying it. One of the things that I believe it's in Florida where you can, there's like a cap on what you can actually sue for malpractice insurance.
Yeah.
That's about to be here too.
I was about to say it's here.
Oh, it's already here. Okay.
Because we were just talking to a friend of ours the other day. It's $350 now. There's the max. And she was saying how this is going to be a major issue for families seeking malpractice lawsuit because you're going to spend that getting everything together, and that $350 is gonna be nothing.
People have no idea how much lawyers cost.
Crazy.
If I were to go back to school right now, I would not be a doctor. I would be a lawyer.
Absolutely.
100%.
Maybe we'll just go back.
Y'all are all like, first off, you all's background is in teaching. So, and you can hear it too when you talk. Like, yeah, because my mother was a teacher. My grandmother was a teacher too. So you guys actually remind me a lot of both of them.
Nice. They must be great women.
I was just about to say they're
phenomenal women.
Phenomenal women.
Yes,
Phenomenal
absolutely.
women. But they really believed in, like you said, like, yeah, because they were pro-Black. But they were also, you got to have some discernment with that too, right? You got to kind of still, people are people. And you got to figure out who's best for you.
Absolutely.
Right.
When you all went into becoming a doula, is there any training for that? That's a question that I did see a lot. Like, what, you guys obviously have the lingo down, right? But how do you train to become this?
You go first.
Okay. So there are a plethora of doula certification programs that you can be a part of. So there is no specific like regulation or body governing body for doulas, like for real. Your sister, if you have one, IDK, could go to a hospital and just be like, hey, I'm a doula, and get away with it.
No certificate or license or anything?
No, because certification is a thing, but it's not required.
It's not regulated.
It's not regulated. So if she wanted to say, yeah, I'm a doula today, and most hospitals don't typically ask for certification, they just gonna go with, all right, she's the doula, right? Because it's not a medical profession.
Okay, so.
Right?
Okay.
It is best practice, absolutely, to go through a certifying agency and a program to get the certificate and to do the coursework and to get mentorship and those things, which both of us have done.
Yes.
But as far as it being regulated and if it is mandatory and mandated, there's plenty of doulas, even in the city, that practice and do not have certification, right? And that does, but also it's like, go ahead.
The other side of that is, man, I think I lost my thought. It was so important.
Sorry, friend. Dang it. To come back.
Oh, I think it was, I don't even know what it was.
You can tell you guys have known each other for a long time.
Oh, really?
Yeah. You can really tell. It's like this energy and synergy that you guys have. Whereas, like, I literally thought you all were sisters originally, right? That's what I said.
We get that a lot, though.
Thought they were sisters. But then it's like now you guys are doing this but why though? Like, why did you go from teaching to becoming a doula?
I know what I was going to say.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so even though there's no certification, well, there are certification programs, there's no governing body. What distinguishes us is we are true learners. Like, we would venture, and we are in the process of crossing over into traditional midwifery, which means we've gone beyond the scope of just emotional support, and now we are learning all the things. Like, we are heading to a Breach Without Borders conference.
Mm-hmm.
We do NRP training,
Same
which
time.
is neonatal resuscitation, and so we are learning how to use blood pressure cuffs and sew up when moms, have a tear in labor, and so we keep learning because we refuse to just stay in the scope
forever. You have to be forever learners, and I guess that's just being educators.
That's what makes us different.
But yeah, we seek out opportunities to learn and do more.
I had to take a moment now so people know who you guys are.
Yes.
Full Bloom Birthing and She by Shira.
That's it.
See,
that's us.
And the reason why I had to stop is because for me, like I told you guys, right? I'm not Fox. I don't want to be Fox.
No.
I want to be a way to show that we need patient advocates, and I want to actually uphold and show people their options.
Absolutely.
And you two are options, right? And for people who don't know, if you're comfortable telling us, right? How does someone actually go to you all? How do they afford you? Does insurance do it? How does that process work for people? Because people are going to want to know now.
Yeah, absolutely. We each have websites. I own a doula agency in the city, so it's not just me. It's other doulas that work alongside me. But it's fullbloombirthing.com, shebyshira.com.
Okay.
And we are in this work together and collaborate. Our businesses collaborate with one another. We're just in two different regions, but sometimes I'm in Middle Georgia with her and sometimes she in Atlanta with me, right? But we offer free consultations. And so families who are expecting, who desire doula support, they can simply go to our website, set up a consultation with us, and then we have a conversation, and really it just kind of moves from there. And making sure, of course, that it's a good fit. We are very big. This is a relationship-based service as well. We're really big on we believe birth is sacred, right? And when you're inviting us into this sacred space, that it just deserves relationship. So we kind of are locking arms with this family. That's why, as Shira said earlier, we are certainly a part of the care team. Yes, we might not be that family's medical providers, but the time that we have spent with them absolutely outweighs the time that their provider has spent with them. And that does not neglect, the care that they can provide, but we should be a collaborative team that can work together. I know her fears. I know her desires. I know she has history, our trauma in her history, and I bring that value to the room as well, right? Which is why we have to become a respected part of the care team.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Right?
Absolutely.
Because they've trusted us, and most of the time we've walked with them since they was 12 weeks pregnant.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And
Or
here we are.
previous losses. We hold their hands through losses and they return to us. We hold their hands through IVF and IUI, and sometimes we're there when they lose people very close to them, or they go through bad divorces, and we still have to get to the end goal. And sometimes we end up stepping into more roles, like we end up being like a literal extension of their family because we were present. So
first birthday parties.
Oh yeah,
I've had a family that has had 4 babies with me now. At this point, we're part of the family, and so that has value, and that has value to these families, and that is why it was such a big deal when these officers came to remove us, because she's like, wait a minute. These are people I trust.
I'm comfortable
These are
with
people
them.
that I've built. Like, if I lose them, then who do I have to not just advocate for me, but where is the safety in that? Right?
Yeah.
She wasn't going to feel safe if the people who she trusted and entrusted and paid, by the way, to come and be in this room with her were removed from her.
So insurance doesn't pay for this. It's something you have to pay for on your own out of pocket.
Yeah, insurance does not pay for it. Sometimes you can use your FSA and HSA plans to offset the cost, but we are so aware of the vulnerable community that we serve that we both have birthing funds. We have funds that you can donate into. You can be a recurring donor, whatever you'd like to do, so that moms who are most vulnerable have access to what they couldn't otherwise afford.
So Full Bloom's Birth Fund, there is a campaign page that's linked on my website. And so people can absolutely go to the website and find the Birth Fund page. And it's just for birth access. Like Shira said, we have recognized it's our grassroots kind of opportunity that we're creating to offer scholarships to families and offer a sliding scale payment plans for families, because there are some families that they really value the work and they desire, not just desire, they deserve to have someone in the room with them to advocate for them, especially coming up against the statistics that we see in this system, right? And we want to make sure that we kind of knock down that financial barrier and have the ability to offer that to our families.
Yes. So when we first started, before the fund came about, we were just each supporting at least one mother per quarter with like no out-of-pocket cost to them. But now we're like, okay, we can do a bit more. So like tomorrow, we're teaching childbirth education.
Where?
That will be in Morrow, Georgia.
Where's Morrow, Georgia?
South Atlanta, Jonesboro.
Oh, so down the street from here. Not too far.
Yeah, it ain't far. But we offer community childbirth education class every month.
And so when we have when there are like maternal health conferences or things that we're invited to, we always do a raffle where one family can come without any out-of-pocket cost. And so we are trying to break down that barrier, but also give families the type of support they deserve. And we sometimes get the clients from those projects that are absolutely, like you said, deserving.
Absolutely.
For sure, yeah.
And at the end of the day, like education, I know it sounds cliche and we're big teachers, so it sounds even more cliche, but it is so foundational in like changing outcomes because so many times people are like, oh, I just didn't know. I thought I had to just listen to whatever the doctor said. And then they're like, oh, that's why I had the traumatic birth experience I had, because I thought I just had to listen to the doctor. He said I had to do this and I didn't have a choice. And they don't recognize that they don't even understand they have personal autonomy of their own body, right? But it's because, and then it's just different in birth. I think that doctors in our society, right? Like they are the experts in our bodies, in our health. And great. Like if I have cancer or diabetes or something, I'm going to go see my doctor because he knows more about it than I do. But birth is tricky. It never belonged in the hospital in the first place, for real. And at the end of the day, the expert in pregnancy and birth is me because it's my body. And I'm going to tell you what's happening in my body. You can't really tell me that because you're not here for me.
Yeah.
Right? And because it's just this natural, normal function and it's happening in my body, we think that like we just have to, because the standard of care for doctors is we listen to them, and now we've included birth in that lump, right? And it should have never been there in the first place.
That's interesting because so I'm obviously hospice, right? And a part of me feels the same way because doctors are not trained on how to deal with people that are dying. Like you all said, you go to the hospital and they tell you how to get better. And so even when I see or I hear what doctors tell families, and I'm gonna tell you the thing they get wrong more than ever is how they'll say, well, we don't know how much time you got. And it's like, but then you'll tell them they don't have a lot of time.
Right.
So when I get them, they're like, well, doc said I was gonna be dead in a week.
2 years later.
I'm like, you're not even close. Like I can't even put you on hospice yet. Right. So I totally get what you guys are saying. Like there's this space between being born, like this birth part and this dying part, and they just need to cover everything in the middle. I understand that. But and again, there are some extreme cases where you all do have to go to the hospital. You all acknowledge that does happen.
Sure.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then even with us going into the hospital, when it comes to birth, after you knowing your own body, midwives are the specialists of birth. We're the expert. They are the experts of birth, in that they truly understand how to facilitate and support physiological birth, which is take your hands off of it and let her body do what it was created to do. If something happens, we also hold the skills that we could then jump in, but mostly it needs to be left alone.
And therein comes another educational piece. People don't know that if I am a low-risk birthing woman and I want to have a physiological birth, I don't need a surgeon. Because at the end of the day, obstetricians are surgeons, right? And that's one of the reasons why our cesarean rate is what it is, right? In America, midwives are the experts in physiological birth. They are not surgeons. So if I'm a low-risk birthing woman, I should know that I have an option to hire a midwife. That doesn't even mean that you're going to have a home birth or a birth center birth, but there are midwives in hospitals or practices that offer midwifery care. But women don't know that. We have been taught that we get pregnant and we hire an OB, right? So we're hiring surgeons to have babies. And then we wonder why the cesarean rate looks like it does.
Isn't that?
We're hiring surgeons.
So I'm just curious now, right? Because someone might argue that because that person went to school, undergrad, then went to grad school, became medical doctors, whatever, they have more information.
They have more information on high-risk things, PCOS, endometriosis, PCOS, endometriosis. They are trained on how to problem solve that. But
Or
as far as
gestational hypertension,
right.
preeclampsia, those high risk factors.
But when it comes to a mother that has little to no pre-existing health conditions or anything that arises in pregnancy, they really are clueless on that one.
Yeah.
Because one of the things that walks them into surgery is babies getting malpositioned, right?
Mm-hmm.
They didn't have to go to spinning babies like we do and learn how to rectify and recognize, okay, if she's saying on every contraction her back hurts, immediately we know this means that baby's spine and her spine are probably rubbing, and so we're going to start changing her position to correct that because babies come down like this. And so the more we move her, the more we help get baby off of her back. That's what we're trained in. Do you think the OB has time to say, a midwife to say, oh, the baby's rubbing against her back, let me problem solve and fix it? They're like, all right, you're not progressing. Surgery. Surgery. And we're like, wait.
Okay.
Now, here's also the thing.
Okay.
It's not like, even concerning breech babies, it's not like these breech conferences and these breech trainings are not open to obstetricians. They are, very much so. And there are a number of obstetricians in the country. We went to a Spinning Babies conference where there were midwives there and other professionals. So it's not like they're not open to it. It's whether or not they consider it valuable, or is it just easier for me to just call a C-section for a labor that's not progressing, or should I invest the time to understand labor more and then figure out how to get more, vaginal births versus cesareans?
Why are you guys so passionate about this?
Well, because we are the women. Every woman that we look at is a JeTaime, is a Shira, is my sister who I watched get walked into cesarean because they told her your baby's going to be over 10 pounds and her baby was 8 pounds. Mm-hmm. We see it happen too often, and then it just doesn't feel right to know that there are options that people do not have access to. That doesn't feel like the right thing to do.
Right. And like she said, we've been those women. I always had an affinity to birth, but the birth of my daughter really kind of lit the fire up under me. I had a birth here at a hospital in the metro area. And remember that whole thing about pain. I remember I was telling folks, first of all, for a couple of weeks, I was like, something is wrong in my body. Mm-hmm. I don't feel right. I kept going to my provider, and it was just pregnancy. Pregnancy. Ended up going to a specialist and needing to be induced immediately for preeclampsia, right? And for 2 weeks, I was like, something is wrong with me. Like, I'm telling y'all something is wrong. And get there, and my body kind of like took off. I had a precipitous labor. And I remember that I was asking them to check my cervix. I was like, y'all, I think I'm feeling contractions. I'm in labor. And they were like, nah. I remember I threw up at one point, which is a clear sign of transition. And they opened the door and was like, you can't be in that much pain. Yeah. There's no way. And ultimately, when they finally came to check my cervix, I was 7 to 8 centimeters dilated. 20 minutes later, pushed my baby out in the OR because they didn't have any doctor to be around. It was like I was still in triage because they hadn't moved me. Put me in a hallway for 2 hours afterwards, after I had my baby, because there were so many inductions at that time that there was not a room available. And then I went back to work, and everybody who looked like me had all these traumatic births, but everybody who didn't look like me, they were like, oh yeah, it was great, because I was a teacher, so lots of pregnant women. But we see this every day, and every time we get a consultation, women are saying to us, like, please make sure I come home with my baby.
I don't want to die. Keep me alive. That's what people say on the first
call. I believe that. I believe it.
Please make sure that I stay alive. Like, keep me alive. And that's hard. It's hard for many reasons.
So we probably don't have enough doulas.
We need some more. Yeah. Because we're about to jump over the midwifery fence. So y'all better. So
when I hear this, right, my other side of my brain says, because you guys are teachers, why not just make the certificate? Why not because it's not even regulated.
Oh, we do that.
We have a doula
We just finished the 6th cohort of for doula.
Okay, that's what. So
the 7th one starts May 24th, by the way.
Where's it going to be?
It's here in the Metro Atlanta area. So it's an 8-week program that's hybrid. So during those, and it ultimately it's like 3 months long, but for 8 weeks they're online and do a at your own pace kind of course. So we teach once a week for those 8 weeks. On the 9th week, they come 3 days in person where we do a skills training, and then it's 6 months of mentorship after that. So it's lengthy, but that's absolutely necessary. Like, we can't do these whole little, when you pledge and they be like, you paper?
Yeah, we don't paper people.
We don't do paper around here. We don't do paper.
No paper.
So these little, courses where you're just online and then you come and show up for 2 days. Yeah, no, but you need the experience, you need the mentorship, you need the skills, the knowledge.
And what distinguishes us also is there are doula programs that teach anti-advocacy. They tell you do not.
You cannot advocate.
And we're like, you can't really do this job without advocating. So if they're training you that way, they're setting you up for failure. So there are doula programs who will watch our video and say, this is exactly what you don't do. You teach them and you step away. And we're like, absolutely not. This is too vulnerable of a moment. And the entire trajectory of their birth can change in the blink of an eye. We have to advocate.
Sometimes though, and this is just me being on the other side, I feel like certain people don't understand what we need advocates for.
Yeah.
Because like you said, they ain't really experienced none of this stuff before. They just kind of, everything is perfect for them, right? Just kind of go through the everyday stuff. So when I see you guys and I'm like, okay, not only are you doing it, you're teaching other people how to do it. So then my only question is now, why you have two companies instead of putting this powerhouse together?
People ask us all the time. They're always like, she started in Middle Georgia and I started here in Atlanta. And so we've just kind of kept our autonomy. Yeah. And of course, collaborate. It is a great marriage. We're like married. Sorry for your husband.
Not in that way.
No, that's not.
Both of us don't have rings. Please look closely.
I had to look. I was like, okay.
No, we're still outside. Well, sort of.
Not kind of. Scratch that. Okay. Delete that. Delete that part.
We need to be outside. Because at this point, I'm going to meet the anesthesiologist.
I'll meet the anesthesiologist. That's fine.
We surely don't want those guys in labor and delivery. Oh, no.
Yeah, man. But anywho, yeah.
We do have babies of the merge of two organizations. So like the childbirth education class, that is
its own entity outside of our two businesses.
Yeah.
But it is a baby of our marriage.
The two of us. It's both of our intellectual property.
Yeah.
I don't know. The goal is one day there will be like a huge superpower of the two combined, but we don't know what that looks like.
We don't know what that looks like right now. Right now we're just married, and sometimes I'm in Middle Georgia and she's in Atlanta. Yeah, it's like a long distance situation.
Yeah.
I'm still curious though, if you guys can say it, right? If someone wants to do this service, how much does it actually cost?
To get the doulas to become a doula or to receive services?
To have the services.
Yeah. So with Full Bloom, our base package price is $2,400. That includes all of your support during pregnancy, labor and birth, and postpartum. So there's a postpartum visit too. That also comes with childbirth education class. We have a lactation consultant on our team, and that is something that families need support with. So a prenatal lactation class as well as postpartum support. So we really tried to make this base package consume all the spaces of support that families need.
And we cook for them.
And we bring over
all the things.
Y'all can cook? Both of y'all can cook?
Yeah. We like to cook. I would love to cook for my families because I think in postpartum, here, especially here in America, everybody wants to come and hold the baby. And we're very big on like, you can hold your own baby. Actually, you should. You should bond with your baby. We're here to hold the family. So we in the kitchen cooking. This morning, I was making some stew and lactation cookies and I was washing dishes and mama was upstairs asleep and dad was on the computer and I had the baby. I had a baby in one arm and I was stirring the pot with the other arm.
Safely.
By the way,
I always say, that's not what I mean. That's not what I mean.
The baby was safe, guys.
The baby was safe.
No babies were harmed at this postpartum visit.
But that's what families need you to show up in, right? And also, I walked with this family through pregnancy and I'll walk with them through birth. And now I'm just showing up on the other side as a part of their village. And that's what's important. But yeah, that's the price with Full Bloom. And then we have, like I said, we've created ways to make it sure that it's accessible in other spaces. For our families. So
we can, it's a little bit less expensive in the maternal areas, in the rural areas, because of course money looks different for our Atlanta folks in Middle Georgia. So it's about, the base package for me is more like about $2,000 or $1,800 down in Middle Georgia, and it gives them all of the same things. They get your lactation consultant, and we have a good, strong community. We meet like for walks every week. We have a dads group called the Legacy League where they can go have a beer and chat about being dads and bear one another's burden. So it's very inclusive.
There's lots of touch
pushing
points.
the strollers, and then we do like a mom's paint night out. So we continuously look for ways to build community and wrap our arms around them, not just through the birth and labor, but the first year and beyond.
What can I do to help? Like if you were saying,
let me hold out $2,400.
The other thing that I want to talk to you guys about, and you can go into as much detail as you want. 2 cases. One, there's a hospital. In all 3 of these cases, you all's case, another case in Riverdale, Georgia, another case in downtown Atlanta. But the one in Riverdale, Georgia, there was a young lady who had a child or was having a child. And the story goes that the doctor decapitated said child. Do you all have any insight, or what were your thoughts on that?
Oh gosh, the level of conspiracy that had to happen for all of the people in that space. Because when you have a birth or a cesarean, there's a whole squad present.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody other than that physician was privy to what was going on.
Mm-hmm.
And to get, what did it take to get everybody in that space to agree to say nothing? At what level did they go to? Because
to where she did not know. They literally
they had to
packaged
work
it
together to make it all piece together. And that alone scares me, that you could convince an entire group of people to work alongside you to do something so horrific.
Yeah.
And it makes us think about the moms we have that are in cesarean or in birth. If a physician says that you need to document it in this manner to cover someone's butt, we've heard it told that they have to. They feel like they have to do what they're being told.
They're being pressured.
Absolutely, they're thinking, I'm going to lose my job. I can't afford to lose my job. So if he says I need to document that she was combative and pain-seeking, I have to do that. We even know people who have gone and said, in hindsight, the provider made them go back and change their notes to align with what transpired to cover his behind.
And at the end of the day, they got to go back to work tomorrow because they got bills to pay, and they're afraid of that. So they can quite literally go to whatever measures and maybe have a bad conscience about it, but they still got a job, you know? And we've just heard that far too much. But how horrific to think that it wasn't just 2, 3, 4 people.
It was a squad.
We've been in the OR with cesareans before, right?
Yeah.
And everybody from different parts of the hospital had to come together to make a cover up. Yeah. That's horrific.
One of the things that we were building, because a lot of when you talk about notes, that's the EMR system. You guys are familiar with that already. So we built one. And so what ours does is a little bit different. It's like people focused versus like company focused. And so instead of you like having these notes and all those things, you pull your phone out and it records everything that the doctor says. So even if I'm in there if I'm married and she's having a child, I'm going to record it.
Yeah.
So all of it's going to be recorded. We're going to know everything that's going on.
Absolutely.
And so I'm always wondering, and this is just me as an outsider, right? I'm not a hospital person. What I was asking you guys is though, like, what is it that technology could do to better help you all's job? Like, what are some things, if you could think of anything, like what would that look like?
That's a great start. We believe that when doulas go into hospitals, that there needs to be some sort of recording device to back up what they're saying transpired, because at the end of the day, they got different types of lawyers than we could ever have.
Oh, you got to do that.
Yeah. So our little coins can't save us, and so we know we're fighting a battle. But if we had something as sophisticated as what you've described that could be on at all times, kind of like the police officers, like it's on at all times, it's keeping this data collected. How could that change the allegations?
Because there's no check. What do you call it in school? Shoot, I'm a teacher. This is horrible. Shira, checks and balances. That's it, sis. That's it.
There's none in healthcare.
There is none in healthcare. So, and because of the hierarchy, whatever the doctor said is what happened.
And you know about
it doesn't matter, right?
Because we love to talk about. We could talk about the hierarchy.
Whatever the doctor said, whatever the nurse said, whatever. At the end of the day, that is what. That's why our word and what we had to say in the video and everything, everybody was like, can't be true because, so Absolutely. At the end of the day, there has to be some kind of like accountability and checks and balances, and there is none.
That's the whole country right now.
I'm going to start going in these little Ray-Ban glasses, whatever, and recording things because it's so hard to get
That's
people
a good idea. We might need to add that.
Because nobody wants to believe what we're saying. You know what I'm saying?
And they make us turn off our cameras. They'll say, in labor and delivery, there's signs everywhere, no recording, no recording, no recording. It's a policy.
It's the law.
But we could very well, as advocates coming into that space, say, well, the company we work for has a policy that states, like the police officer, they didn't tell him to turn off his camera when he walked into labor and delivery. So we could say our company requires that our device remains on for the safety of ourselves and for our clients. You think that worked?
No, probably not. I was recording on TikTok Live, and they was coming up to me like they was going to snatch that thing out.
So that was your phone?
Yeah, my phone. I was like, Shira, they can't do this to us. I was just like, I think in my brain, I was just like,
We need
how is this happening?
Yeah.
Because we literally, let me tell you, moments before that, we literally were sitting with the lights off.
Yep.
We had soaking music playing on my phone.
Yeah.
And mama was in the bathroom laboring. Still no pain management at this point, by the way, 5 hours later.
That's what I heard her say.
Yeah,
5 hours
later.
No pain
So at
med.
this point, we still hadn't gotten anything. We hadn't gotten any pain management. She's in the bathroom. I'm sitting at the door of the bathroom, kind of like just making sure she's good. Shira's sitting on the little bench, the little cot they give dads.
The fancy little couch they give you.
You know. She's
Very
sitting over there.
uncomfortable.
Thank God it's 2 of us because we've been at this for many hours. So she's kind of resting and I'm kind of like making sure mom is good. It is chill and vibes in the room. Yeah. And the lights come on and there's a doctor and a nurse and 3 public safety officers demanding that we get out of it. It just became this whole thing. So I wish that, in that moment, you don't know what you're thinking, right? But I was just like, how is this happening? And we're questioning, we're asking for a patient advocate.
So confused.
We're like, don't you understand what's happening? We're trying. And once we ran through all the things and I recognized this was not going anywhere and like, could this really be happening? I was like, Shira, we got to go live. We got to record this. And she was kind of just like, okay. And I was like, which one should we do? Instagram or TikTok? I'm like, it was taking me forever to even find it because my brain was in so many places.
And I was actually already afraid. So I'm the law-abiding citizen, non-confrontational.
I get that.
I want to be a thug.
I get that too. I get that too. Gang. I get it.
This work has turned me into, like, my clients describe me as a pit bull, and I'm a tad bit offended, like, because I didn't know I had that in me to be pit bull. I'm very like, okay, not quite yes sir, but okay. And so when she said she's going to record, I'm like, well, they said no recording. Let's just try and hear them
at
out.
all.
Let's just try and hear what they're saying.
I'm here at me.
And I'm like, oh, this feels like controversy.
It was the you calling the name out that I was like, oh shit, this is for real.
Yeah. She said it wrong the first time. She said
Piedmont, Atlanta.
I was like, scratch that. Piedmont Henry.
She's like, JeTaime, it's Piedmont Henry. I was like, oh, I'm here at Piedmont Henry. I was like, they can't. And I think that's where we differed in that moment. Like, she was very much like, and you can hear her like plead to them in the video, even like, think about this for a moment. Like, do you understand what you're doing? And I'm very much like, where's the patient at? Like, no, what do you mean? Right? Because I was so angry. I was like, you really can't do this. And I think I was angry, not just for us. I was really angry for her. Like, y'all really finna come in here and do this? And I was recognizing the retaliation. Like there had been another moment where they had brought some public safety officers in for just a moment to kind of like check out what was going on in the room and a child in the room, all of those things. But they left. And that was when we first kind of was like, what's going on here? Something's a little off. And 20, 30 minutes later, for sure, it exploded. Like,
I just remember thinking, is this really what y'all about to do? Like, here we have a mom who's literally 8. Oh, so she'd gotten a recheck by then. So now she's like, what?
8, 9 centimeters.
You only have to get to 10, guys.
Yeah.
So she's in the thick of it. And you decided that it was in the best interest of the provider in this hospital, because definitely not her, to hold this whole shebang right in the middle of the thick of her labor.
Because her labor didn't stop. She's still over in the corner having contractions.
And I just kept saying, like, we can't talk about this after. You could say to me, after tonight, you can't come back.
Yeah.
But in the thick of this moment, you're going to pull away her advocates and leave her here to figure this out. That just feels so far-fetched. And I'm looking at men who look like us. I'm looking at a whole bunch of us. And I'm sitting here going, so you're going to let this Black woman who's in the thick of labor, you're going to take everybody out of the room with her and risk the possibility, because when you're 8 centimeters, things can change quickly. Before we had time to go get dad or do this, that baby could have easily been born then. Yeah. So you're okay with us literally walking out of this room and leaving her here with him? To take, like, that's okay with you?
Yeah.
And I'm just looking at them like I'm waiting on the humanity to break through. I'm waiting on, like, character to break through. I'm waiting for them to say, yeah, I'm an officer, but also I'm a Black man in America, so I hear you, sister. I was waiting on something, but that never happened.
We kept saying, like, on what grounds? On what grounds? And it was like the visitation policy. But then that got debunked. And so then we're like, on what grounds? And it's like, you're impeding with her medical care. And we were like, how? And then he's like, well, we're not going to get into that. We don't want to get into that. You know, the doctors and the nurses said it, so that's all that matters. We were never getting anywhere. So that was just making me even more like.
And I also want to say our nurse at that time was like, I ain't say that. She said it real quick.
No, I didn't say that.
Yeah, our labor and delivery nurse was clutch. She was great. Shout out to her. She knows who she is.
It was the triage nurse and the provider we've already mentioned that had beef, because what was happening was, if we can be honest, if you think of like, I don't know, one of those Transformers shows or Power Rangers where they all unite.
Yeah.
And there's like a superpower. So we had all of these people in this room who were on the same page, like, this is working, do this, great. We had a solid plan. And, you know, old white man walks in. Yeah, he was like, wait a minute, you letting all these people that look like that make this decision?
Yeah.
He couldn't wheel it back in. It was too far gone.
Yeah.
And it was a power trip. There's no other way to describe it. It was a power trip, and he was digging desperately for a way to stop what was about to go down. Yeah.
I'm still... Because now I'm wondering, right? Because now what you guys are saying makes a lot of sense to me. It's, for me, right? I look at men who, like we said, hate women. That's a fact, right? And it doesn't matter the color of the man. Right. That's the other thing that people need to truly understand. Like, you know, I got friends that are all different races. I can say that I have to constantly say, you can't say that. Like, I have to constantly advocate for women. One of the things that I'm wondering here, though, and I'm just asking you guys because you were there. Would they act like this if the father was also in the room, you think?
We've considered that. And one of the things that we were doing in all of our efforts that day was protecting him, because think about this. He's a black male, locks in his hair. If he had entered into that space and showed any type of aggression or how could this have looked?
Oh, yeah.
How could this have looked?
And he wasn't not in the room forever, or we put him out, or whatever that was. We had really not even been long in that room, because this is hours after having been stuck in triage. So the circumstances around that, like, are a thing. But also, to Shira's point, that's certainly a thing. Also, I think at the end of the day, there was one goal in mind.
Get her to C-section.
Get her to C-section, right? Yeah. Remove anybody who they feel is getting in the way of that, and get her to C-section. So I think it would have looked vastly different if he was in that room with us, which he could have been according to the visitation policy, right? I just think it would have been even more layered.
I think so.
Because of what he looks like as a black man in America.
With locks. Yeah.
I also think that when we think about our partners in birthing spaces, every father isn't the type that's going to question or speak up. Some of them have the type of personalities that are more mild and just like, hey, y'all tell me if you need me to do anything. And other dads are like, I need to understand why you're doing that. And you have to know your partner in that space. And when mom said, this is who I want in here, she understood the capacity or the understanding
hostile
that
environment that it already had been, right? And trying to protect him as well. Nobody was trying to steal him not seeing the birth of his child. No. That was never the case.
That was some of the narrative that I read.
Exactly.
And we actually have, again, receipts of the actual audio of him leaving out of the room,
and us talking to him and saying, like, "Hey, you want to come in? Yeah, you want to be here? Yeah, there's definitely."
He's like, "No, I'm gonna go out." Because he,
also he walked in with all these officers, but it was never a case of us trying to. They walked him out. They
were coming in at the moment where he was in there. Like the rigmarole had already started when he came in to like try and switch spots with us, and so. I mean, I can only imagine what it felt like for him. A whole bunch of cops.
So when we said, hey, do you want to stay in here? He was like, I'm going to go out here. Because I also think we all thought that we weren't really going to get kicked out. But while these police in here right now, he's like, go.
Y'all cool this down.
Cool, and then I'm going to come back in a minute. Because we never anticipated that it was going to. Yes. I thought that they were probably going to threaten to put us out. But because they weren't giving us any hardcore reason why we had to leave, even in these moments, I still did not think like, oh, we're going to get put out this hospital and escorted off property this morning, because it was the wee hours of the morning. I don't think I even still believe that in that moment.
Until the moment that the officer looked her in her eyes, almost nose to nose, and turned off his camera and said, don't make me put my hands on you.
Yeah.
So
they started.
Stop it.
No, seriously. So first the public safety officers came. Then they called. There is a point where Shira does leave the room, and there's a point where, because remember, I'm a little angry, And I wasn't belligerent, but I was upset.
Frustrated.
Very much so.
Frustrated. Yeah.
Frustrated. And they still couldn't give me a reason why. So what I did, because at one point, because we were not leaving the room, anesthesia was right outside the door to give her an epidural. The nurse comes back in and says, now they're saying that they won't allow anesthesia to come in unless y'all leave. Yeah. So now here we are once again refusing to provide treatment because they're saying we won't get out of the room. So now it's, there's a sterile procedure going on. No one can be in the room. So y'all have to leave in order to get the epidural. When typically it's still you can have one support person. But now they're saying if y'all don't leave, she can't get an epidural. So now as her support people, we're like, okay, then maybe we should leave. So what I did was I walked to the line. There's a line that separates because this room is like right in front of the nurse's station. So I walked to the threshold and I'm like, I'm going to stand in and out the room. Make me leave.
And I'm right on
And I didn't say a word. I was silent. He kept saying, come out of the room, ma'am. Come out of the room. And I just stood there.
This is so intense. It's like, I'm from Chicago, right? Yeah. And it's like, why do I feel like that's just this hostile environment
that's exactly
in a hospital when someone's trying to have a baby?
From an officer, because at this point they had gotten the lieutenant public safety officer. The house supervisor has come downstairs, has said use whatever force is necessary to willfully remove them if they do not willfully. They do not willfully leave, which is why he felt that he had the authority to tell me that he could put his hands on me to pull me out of the room if I did not leave the room, because he had permission from the house supervisor to use whatever force. And they continued to threaten us and say, we will physically remove you if you don't come out of the room. We will physically remove you.
You know what's crazy? I have had situations, right? Yeah. In places you would never imagine. I've never had somebody tell me ever that they will physically remove me.
Right.
Ever.
And that's what our labor and delivery counterparts have been saying. They say, we see like families literally go blow for blow in labor delivery. We see grandmas go at it. We see things that warrant an officer, and we've never heard that type of language used. The tones we've spoken in today is the most they got that day. This is it.
And even when he kept asking me, I was silent. I didn't say a thing. Shira saw me. Shira was right there next to me because she was outside the room, but still right there next to me. He kept asking me to come out, and I was just like, I mean, y'all still can't give me ground. I'm silently standing there. Yeah. And he comes up to me, and we have that on audio recording too, because I didn't remember till I listened to it again the other day. And I said, do not put your hands on me. And I remember I kind of like backed back, like, don't put your hands on me, because he said that he was going to. And when he did that, he put his hand kind of like somewhere here. I don't know what he had. I don't know what public safety officers carry, because at that time, the county police officers were not there yet.
Yeah. So the police did actually come.
Oh, yeah. They escorted us down outside.
Yeah. So at this point, they're waiting on the county police to get there. They had called them because they said that we were, going against their wishes or whatever to leave. But they had not arrived yet. And so I said, don't put your hands on me. But I did leave the room because I got scared that he was going to aggressively put his hands on me.
And tase you. I thought he was going to tase you.
I didn't know what he had on him. But I do remember that there was a moment where this is now, again, this is in front of the nurse's station. This is a scene, all Black nurses.
Everything.
All Black public safety officers minus one who was not Black. And everybody looking. So it was a show, and I felt so unprotected in that moment, though. And I said, me and Shira show up in this space continually to protect Black women, and we became Black women who needed to be protected. And I felt like even if he did put his hands on me in that moment, nobody would have said anything. It would have
been just like that operating room.
It just would have been a show.
It would have been just like the other hospital you just mentioned.
Yeah.
All of them would have signed off on the paper saying they did it. They were, and we would have just been on somebody's T-shirt or something. You know what I'm saying?
And so I walked out of the room at that moment because I got scared. Yeah. I was afraid that he was,
Georgia has proposed a bill where healthcare workers wear body cams. What are your thoughts?
That might be a good idea.
Might be a good idea?
Yeah, I think so.
I think if that was to really happen, my God, because the things that I'm already thinking I have seen, and the obstetric violence and the assaults that I have seen on a regular basis.
I like that, because I'm thinking about all the side conversations where they go out and they say certain things to the nurse to influence how they come back in the room and show up, like how.
But they would turn it off though.
Oh, they can't. They shouldn't be able to.
They shouldn't be. So there's no off button.
No.
I love it.
Just right.
I personally love it. We talked about it like a week ago. I love the idea. I think it should be thrown out. So I'm just curious, right? There's this case in Atlanta. I won't say the hospital, but there was a young lady who was actually a nurse. And she went into the doctor and she said, I got this headache and it won't go away. The doctor kind of pushed her to the side. And I guess sometime thereafter, she goes to the hospital and they essentially tell her that, force her into labor, into having this child, and she ends up passing away. What were your thoughts on that? How could that have been done differently as a doula, even as a patient advocate? What should people do in that situation in states like Georgia?
Mm.
Go ahead.
The first thing that I thought about is under our umbrella, when we work with families, most of our moms get a watch, and we remotely monitor symptoms that could be pointing towards something going on with their health. We give them protein strips, and we also make sure all of them have blood pressure cuffs. So what would have happened, hypothetically, if she was paired with one of us? And we could do some early detecting, and we could get her in and make them hear her. What could have possibly been different if she had access to that? And the hardest part is when people are in the health system sometimes, getting them to see the value in things like doulas.
Yeah. I think it also speaks to the space, how especially Black women consistently in not just maternal health, but period, are unheard. We are not taken seriously. Again, we're the experts in our own bodies.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And far too often are women saying like, I know there's something wrong, but hey, okay, the doctor, because that's the authority, said it's all good, and something tragic happens.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times we have had families to say that something was wrong and thought that something was wrong on the postpartum end or in pregnancy. Call us like, man, I got this headache that just won't go away. And the doctor said everything's okay. And I'm like, right now, remember, we got you a blood pressure cuff because like she said, we make sure every mama has a blood pressure cuff in her home during pregnancy and postpartum. And we take it and it's sky high. I'm like, hey, meet you at the hospital. And we go with them because I'm gonna show up. I went to a mom's house one time and got in the car with her, and she's like, "Oh, but girl, we're going. Come on, let's go because this is serious." And when doctors say like, "No, this is normal pregnancy," we advocate. It's not, right? And so, absolutely, what could have changed had she had access to that space or to the resources of a doula or just somebody who could have said no, like make them hear her. And it sucks that we are in that predicament, that we have to make a provider hear us. And most of the time they don't hear us until it's too late.
It's too late.
And too late. And unfortunately in this situation where it cost her life. And I think that also goes to, there's this one slogan that the maternal care space has, and I hate it. I ain't gonna lie. It's healthy mom, healthy baby.
Yeah,
as long as we have a healthy mom, healthy baby, that's all that matters. Survival is the standard. And at this point, I feel like that is kind of where maternal care providers are. Not saying that they don't care about the lives of their patients. I don't think they wake up in the morning and be like, I'm going to traumatize somebody today.
Today's the day.
For sure. Today, I'm going to strip them of their autonomy and their rights today, right? That's not it. But I think that there are so many other layered pieces and nuances to the system itself that I think at some point they don't even have time, right? To even think about it or just really pay attention and really build relationship with these clients or patients that they have. But survival has become the standard and the experience doesn't matter, like how the method of delivery happens, whether it was traumatic, whether they almost died or not, like none of that matters, at the end of the day. And again, this is not to like shame providers in any way. I just think that it's, where we have found ourselves today is really tragic. And
that's why we need to be considered a part of the care team and taken seriously and be a part of the process of decision making.
I agree 100%. If you could tell providers one thing, right, to not make your lives easier as much, but make the life of the person who's having the baby easier, what would that be?
We are not here to discredit your hard work and your expertise and your skills, but we believe that if you would give it a shot, just give it an honest opportunity to work as a collective, that we would see a drastic change in outcomes around us. The door is open. I've been a part of several doula pilot programs that the initiative was to forge relationship between provider, doula, and hospital staff. And every time, without fail, the providers don't show up to these meetings. So there has to be a willingness to meet us halfway and work together. And so
and like a value in the work that we do, just as much as we value the work that they do, right? There's this space, and I've seen it in some relationships where I have great relationships with providers or great relationships with nurses. And when we show up when it's time for birth, right, it is this beautiful synergy in the room, and we're all working together for the benefit of this mom and this baby. And I think that that's significant, right? And it's impactful, and there's proof, there's scientific data that it changes outcomes, right? And so not every provider is bad, right? We just are in a system that was kind of created, not necessarily with the interest of mom and baby at the heart of it, it feels like, but there are those great providers that really put in the time and the effort to get to know their patients and hear them and listen and say like, hey, it's great that you get a doula. There's a provider in the city who gives me so much business because she's like, I think you need a doula. Call JeTaime. Right? And those relationships are great. And we see these great outcomes for these families, even if it doesn't end up in the desired birth outcome, right? There's birth outcome. We see that. So, that's just a piggyback off
meet us at the table.
Said.
Meet us at the table. Let's talk.
I love it. Shira, JeTaime.
Henry.
10-4, Henry, over and out.
I want to thank y'all for coming, most importantly. And then I love that for me. I think everyone thinks that you all are fighting the doctors or you all were fighting the hospital. And to hear you all say just now, if we worked together, that's really all you guys are asking for. And so I want to be an advocate for that. I want to make sure that they understand that. And whatever we can all do is for the best interest of the patient and the baby.
Absolutely. At the end of the day, that's what it's about. Not about us, what we want, what they want. It's family.
All right. Experience. I appreciate you guys coming on. Please remember to reach out to them and tell them where they can find you guys.
I'm on all social media platforms at Full Bloom Birthing. And you can also find me in my business, the agency here in Metro Atlanta, at fullbloombirthing.com.
And I'm also on most platforms. I'm She by Shira. That's SHIRA. She by Shira. Is that my platform?
Absolutely, it is.
Oh, She by Shira _doula. That's me.
Are you sure?
I'm positive.
Okay.
She by Shira _doula.
All right.
Yeah, you can flash it at the bottom of the screen.
No, we will. Yeah, it'll be there. It'll be there.
Can I say peace up, A-Town down?
Sure.
We put them together and we get an M for
Oh my gosh, please.
How do you do it?
Peace up, A-Town, and then you put the M together and you get MacTown.
Oh my God. All right, y'all.
Please don't put that on there.